Welcome back to 315 TV. There's a lot of madness and chaos in this world. We try to ignore it and pretend that it doesn't exist, but that madness is undoubtedly among us. We're going to talk about two bizarre cases in the death metal community. And first we will start with Dead. Per Inge Veolin, or better known by the name Dead, was a troubled young boy. He was known as the frontman of the black metal band Mayhem, and he would bring new techniques to his performances, such as inhaling the rotting fumes of a bird's corpse that he carried with him before shows, so that he could sing with the stench of death in his nostrils. He would also mutilate his body on stage with broken bottles, and was considered the pioneer of death metal bands wearing corpse paint for a performance. He and his bandmates one show decided to rid the crowd of weak-stomached posers. They did this by tossing the head of severed pigs around like a beach ball at a pool party. Dead had an obsession with death, as you may have noticed. He would collect dead birds and claimed that he himself was dead and would never publicly eat. He stated to the other band members that he was not human and was simply another creature living. The people close to him couldn't understand his personality and said that he seemed very depressed and melancholic, a troubled young boy. Dead had a friend and a member of the band going by the name Euronymous. From the self-harm and torture Dead would do to himself, most close to him were upset about these actions. Euronymous reacted very different to all of this. He was fascinated. Euronymous didn't dissuade Dead to these acts, but he would encourage it, even to the point of telling Dead that he should end his own life. The two lived together, along with another bandmate. There's reports of Dead and Euronymous going to great lengths in their altercations with each other. This drew Dead to become more and more depressed, and he sunk deeper into his shell of madness. Dead wrote a letter and explained that his actions would not make sense to anyone, but he had to do them. His letter showed just how troubled this boy really was. He used a knife to cut the both of his wrists and slice his neck, but when the bleeding wasn't fast enough for him, he took a shotgun to his head and ended his life there. Euronymous returned to their living quarters to find the body of Dead laying in his blood and with his suicide note beside him. Most would think that the first thing to do once you find your friend's dead body in his room is to call for medical help. Euronymous was not like most people, certainly a troubled, edgy kid. Out of his edginess, he decided to take photos with Dead's body and even scraped up some of the bones of Dead's scattered skull so that he could later turn them into jewelry for him to wear. And he even mailed some pieces to the other bandmates that he deemed worthy. After he collected the remains and took his photos, he called for emergency help, and Dead's body was taken away. The sick part of it all was the fact that Euronymous used Dead's suicide as an opportunity for promotion. He used his developed photo as the album art for Mayhem's release, and told everyone that Dead killed himself because black metal had become too mainstream. There are truly some disturbed individuals in this world we live in. Some are overly edgy like Euronymous was. Then you have the ones who fear rejection to the point of cold-blooded murder. This time we are talking about Karathorn, or his given name, Matthias Skorman. Matthias was an older adult in his early 30s. He shared an interest of black metal, and he would play bass and sing vocals in the band Carpe Noctem. Matthias was described to be a person of obscure hobbies. He collected several different weapons, listened to black metal, and smoked weed regularly. He also had fallen madly in love with his friend Bianca. Bianca had an aspiration in the medical field. She held her job as a medical assistant. She did not share many of these interests with Matthias, and she was in a relationship with someone for several years already. What these two did share was an interest in marijuana. Matthias constantly asked Bianca to go on a date with him, but she would turn him down time and time again. He couldn't take the constant rejection and began to obsess over her for weeks. He had come up with a plan to get her attention. He invited her over so they could smoke some weed together. So she was interested and made a decision to go over, not knowing what her fate would come to. Matthias was going to give her one last proposition before he decided what he was about to do next. Once she had denied him for another future date, he wrapped his hands around her throat and strangled her until she was dead. If you think that the story ends there, then you've underestimated the depravity of humanity. Matthias proceeded to cut off Bianca's head and placed her body into different provocative poses, only dressing her in black boots as he photographed each pose like some disturbing photo shoot. Some of the photos show her decapitated head wearing sunglasses balanced on a table, and her body posed in a relaxed way with an upside-down cross necklace placed over her. This wasn't enough for Matthias, as he had to spread his disgusting acts to other people online. So he went to the website, Life of Debauchery, and made a post titled, Dead Whore, uploading the photos he had recently taken. There were some skepticism to the photos as users were debating whether or not they were authentic. After the post was made, the owner of the website was contacted by the local German police, asking if he was the owner and that a crime had been committed. After some back and forth, they verified with the owner of the website that the photos showing the dead body of Bianca were in fact real, and they were looking for the person responsible. They cooperated together, and some moderators tried to contact Matthias, but his post was shortly removed after. The owner of the website posted this message to his board. Matthias, shortly after posting the photos, began to judge himself on his actions he committed. He took the head of Bianca and placed it into a bag. Before he left, he set his apartment on fire, burning the body of Bianca and the rest of his belongings. Matthias brought the bag with him into his Ford Escort and began driving through the German Autobahn to where he collided headfirst into a truck and ultimately killing himself. Once the emergency services showed up, they uncovered the head from the bag, and the family later identified their daughter from the photos posted online. An interesting thing about these both incidents is the fact that Dead and Matthias were heavy enjoyers and creators of black metal. You can find both of the former musicians' recordings on YouTube. Maybe their history will add another layer of strangeness to the audio. The lyrics written from Matthias' verses also seem to show where he got his inspiration from. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next story, unless I come across a deranged, edgy death metal musician soon.